Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk about, the fact when you're really thinking about something. Let's say you really hate your job at the minute and you can't stand it, and you keep wishing and wishing that you had a better job, or that you're in something more creative, or that you're in a really cool company, and you're really getting down about the fact that, you're really wishing for this thing but nothing's happening. So that is, something that we all do, sadly. But the thing is there to pause on is you're wishing for it to happen, but you're not actually acting on it. And a lot of us get stuck in this loop of like wanting, wishing our life was better, wishing I had more money, wishing I was in a better job, but not actually do anything about it. And you become, stuck in this bubble in your mind, and it can, cause quite depressive episodes, to be honest, if you're really thinking about all the bad things in your life, not focusing on any of the good things and not acting on anything. That's the main thing, where you're not acting on anything that you're doing. So firstly, my name's Jodie, guys. If you're new here, I work in finance in London and have done in the last 10 years. And I've really been interested in personal finance and like financial well-being, over the last few years. So that's why I created this channel. It's super new. If you can subscribe, that would be amazing. But yeah, let's get into the video. So firstly, let's talk about your job. If this is something that you really hate, as I said, what are you doing about it? Are you just thinking about it non-stop? Are you sitting on the couch, scrolling on Instagram, seeing all the cool things everyone else is doing, but you're not actually actioning things at all? What I would say to you is get up off your arse if you're sitting on the couch and update your CV, okay? Sometimes you need someone to say that to you. Have you updated your CV? Have you edited it so that it looks the best that it can look, okay? Maybe even get a friend or a family member to have a look over it to see if there's some things that, you might need to pop on it to improve what it looks like. So if you have an updated CV, of course, go apply for stuff. If you're sitting there just wishing things to happen, but you're not actioning it, of course, it's never going to change. There's something that Einstein said where it was like something along the lines of, if you repeat the same thing over and over again and expect different results, it's kind of the definition of bonkers, basically. So once you've started applying for jobs, don't just apply for one or two. Maybe apply for things that you feel like you may not even get, that maybe you're a little bit underqualified for, especially as a woman. I noticed there was a recent survey done that when it comes to men, they are definitely more likely to apply for jobs, even if they feel like they're underqualified. Whereas for women, if we feel like we don't tick all of the boxes in the job description, that we won't even apply, even if it's just one that we don't tick. So really just go for it, throw as much stuff at the wall as you can. If you really want a creative job and maybe you've just started editing and it's a junior editor role, okay, perfect, that's perfect for you. Maybe you've never worked in it, but you've learned stuff on YouTube, you've learned stuff on, other platforms like Skillshare and things like that. And maybe someone will give you a chance, especially if it's a smaller business. That might be the best way into that industry, because you'll quickly move up the ranks quicker in a small business than a larger corporation. Just a bit of example for myself. So I started off in a commercial role. I was actually in sales for a couple of years, realized I hated it, and I really wanted to move into finance, but I didn't have, an accounting qualification. I didn't have all this background of finance at this time in my 20s, And I just applied for the job in the company that there was an opening for. I didn't think I would get it because I thought, I don't have the right qualifications of what they need. But that finance director took a chance on me because he saw that I was hardworking. He saw that I, would stay late here and there, and he saw that I wanted to learn and was passionate about it. And I got the job, and I've been in finance for the last 10 years. And because someone took a chance on me and because I actually put myself forward for it, I've been able to change the trajectory of my life, and you can definitely do the same for yourself too. So the second thing I want to talk about is the place that you live. Maybe you're not in the area that you want to live in. Maybe you want to move to London, but you don't really know how, and you're stuck in the town that you live in. Maybe you don't have enough money to get here. Maybe you don't know any connections in London. And maybe it's also the job that's linking you to a certain place, but you want to move and upgrade your life to a new city. Again, this can be super daunting, and hopefully I can share my side on it. I'm obviously Irish, I'm not from London originally, and I moved here about 10 years ago, and I didn't really know that many people. I knew maybe a handful of people that were in London at that time, but I moved here when I was 21, and it was scary, but it was mainly exciting. I wouldn't let the fear kind of take over completely. I came from a very small town, moving to London where, it can be a little bit scary. You've got like the tubes, you've got like the fast motorways, you got like all the people who don't say hello to you, you know, it can be a little bit daunting. And even though for the first few months I was in a job which I absolutely hated and I wanted to go back to Ireland, I stuck it out because I knew that my life would be better in London because of the type of jobs that I wanted to go for. You know, there were more options here, you know, there's more creative things here. I very much love fine art and there's a lot of art galleries around London, and that was what I wanted to get into, as well as, you know, the finance route. So for me, I knew it was the best thing for me. So maybe have a look in your own life, you know, are you in a place geographically where, let's say you want to be creative, let's say there's not a lot of creative sectors in that place and maybe you want to go to a city, just take the leap. You know, there are a lot of people coming in from abroad, moving into London every single day. And there's places like spareroom.com where you can find a room in a house share. And yes, they will be strangers, but 9 times out of 10, they will have the same ambitions as you will have that as to why they've moved there. So don't be afraid to look on these websites like Rightmove, spareroom.com to see, okay, how much is it to live in London and live in a big city? You know, can I afford it? You know, what are the good areas? And maybe you need to save for like another year in the place that you're living now before you can get to that destination that you want to go to. But I would say, you know, don't let fear hold you back, but just take that leap, you know, just go for it, just apply. And honestly, I've loved London. I've loved every second of being here, apart from the first few months where I really wanted to go and leave home just because I had no money. But, you know, London is a great place and I'd really recommend it. And if this is the life that you want to live and you want to, you know, surround yourself with creative people, I would recommend East London. If you want to be a little bit more sophisticated, West London. Things like South London, which is more like Peckham, you know, it's got a little bit of edge to it. It's also a more creative hub for like music and things like that. You know, it really depends on what kind of life you want for yourself and to really hone in on it and just go for it. And a way around this is if you feel like you can't afford to live in a certain area, have a look at your monthly budget. Again, I know I keep talking about budgets, but they're so important. Like, what percentage are you spending on eating out, drinking out, you know, that kind of thing every month? You mightn't even realize you're spending like £300 a month on these things. Whereas if you save that £300 for the next, you know, few months or a year, you will have a bucket of money there to be able to afford to rent in London, to have, you know, to be in a spare room in this really cool place in Hackney, and that you get to live out your dreams. So have a bit of a think about how you're actually living now and how you actually want to feckin' live, and then just go ahead and do it. So the next thing I want to talk about is you're in your head and you're wanting to have financial freedom, or you want to have this idea of retiring early, but you don't know how to get there. So you just keep spending because you're like, I'm never going to be able to retire early anyway. Just hold on a sec. There are ways to do this, okay? And if you're really wishing and wanting truly to retire by the age of 40 or the age of 50 or whatever the age will be, the sooner you start as like teenage years in your 20s, the better it will be. Now for myself, I only started investing when I was probably like 29. I wish I started earlier. I didn't really know an awful lot about it. So I really had to learn myself when I was an adult. And what I would say to you is, if you have a goal in mind of, let's say you're 20 and you want to retire by the age of 40, it's totally doable if you put the money into it. You know, if you're able to save a little bit here and there and pop that into investments rather than eating out on brunch, you know, 6 times a month, maybe do it 3 times a month, and the remainder you can put into your investments. And you might be thinking, Jodie, like, if I put £60 a month in, I'm not going to be able to like live off of that. But okay, maybe not £60 a month, right? But if you put a few £100 a month and you kept it in there for 20 years, you know, this is how much that you could potentially have in investments with an 8% return. Now, obviously investments, you have to do your own research before you put into them. I do index funds. I invest in the S&P 500, which is a more diversified way for myself and a little bit less risk averse. You know, everyone has different ways. Some people might be more into bonds rather than just stocks. So really read up on it on yourself before you do anything. But what I would say for myself, you know, I've never been into buying single stocks, or I've never been into cryptocurrency because I feel it's way too volatile. If you look at a graph of like Bitcoin or Ethereum, it's always like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And of course there will be peaks and troughs in usually any investment that you have. If you look at the S&P 500 graph, Of course, there's peaks and troughs over those years, which is normal with investing. If there's, a very big banking crisis, if there's COVID, if there's like a property bubble that bursts, things like that, that will affect the economy, that the tracker is tracking. It's like the longer you leave investments in, the better off you're likely to be, because you'll have ridden a lot of those waves, within those. So you'll be able to feel a little bit more comfortable if you're in it over a long period of time. And if you don't know the first thing about investing, look on YouTube. Like, there are great videos. Like, that's how I started. I literally followed someone on how to set up a stocks and shares ISA account step by step. And then I just started to put in £100 every month, direct debit. That's the best way to do it. Not to try and time the market, but just to put in whatever amount that you feel that you can afford every month in at the same time every month, okay? It's called dollar cost averaging, and that's kind of the best way, because you're forgetting about it. It's just in the background, it's going in automatically without you even having to think about it. And then, in 20 years time, when you look at that account, you will have grown most likely a lot of money due to compounding. If you want to retire early, if you want to follow the FIRE movement, which I've done a video about, or if you just want to, be in a place where you don't have to work, hell for leather, that maybe you can get a part-time job in your 40s and live off of your investments for the rest of your days. Whatever you feel like you want to do, you have to act on it. Otherwise, it's never going to happen. You can't just wish you're going to retire when you're 30, but then not take any actionable steps and hope you win the lotto or something like that. Really do act on what you want to do, and of course, then you shall be able to achieve them. Hopefully that was helpful. We all do this, where we sit on things, where we don't action things, where we want to wait until something's perfect before we action it. And then, a lot of the time we don't action it at all. So hopefully this was a little bit helpful to push you along, whether it's your job, your life, or maybe what's happening with your finances. Even if there's a goal that you want to get a property, break down that goal. How will you achieve that goal? If you need 20 grand to buy a house for deposit, how will you get to that 20 grand? Okay, maybe you have 2 years, maybe you can save, a couple of hundred every month if you calm down on getting cocktails out and putting that money into a deposit savings account for yourself. There are ways around it. You don't need to be breaking your back with side hustles and grinding yourself to the ground. Oftentimes, if you look at how your spending habits are, you can adjust those down and be able to save the difference. If you have any comments on the below, do share them down here, because it's helpful for everyone, to have any other ideas on how to act and not just to wish. Of course, actioning can be a little bit hard. Sometimes you need a little bit of a push. So hopefully it was helpful for you guys. And if you have any other comments on what kind of videos you want me to do next, pop them down below. I'll be happy to answer. But yeah, that's it for me, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.